Hey everyone, welcome back to the Champion's Mind. Today I want to talk about the voice inside your head, the one that can either build you up or tear you down. I'm going to share how my own self-talk shaped my journey and how you can start rewriting yours to sound more like a champion. Let's get into it. We all have moments when our own thoughts can feel like the loudest critics. I want to start by sharing a time when my inner voice almost cost me everything. So this was my second year out of university. So I was playing pro at this time. I just got drafted to Phoenix. I had a good year there, went overseas, played really well. And the Phoenix Suns didn't decide to re-sign me. So I was able to get another opportunity to play for Atlanta Dream. And I had to come into training camp to honestly just win another position on that team. I had to beat out somebody. And going into this training camp, I had worked so hard. I did all the cardio, the things that I didn't want to do. I was running, I was doing sprints, I was lifting, anything that made me feel uncomfortable. I was doing that consistently just so I can make this team. So we go into training camp. And I just had this feeling like it was going to be really hard because the team wanted to see who could survive the hardest of training camps and still be able to push through. So we were doing crazy things. Like we would go in, we would have like a team workout. And then right after, they would have us do these wind sprints. And essentially, it was just to see how hard you can push yourself or what your limit was. And they really just want to see who would quit first. So essentially, we were just running sideline to sideline continuously until eventually you just couldn't do it anymore. And I remember like running consistently back and forth after just doing a hard 2-hour skills workout. We just kept running back and forth and the whole team was running. And then eventually how it worked out was that people would stop running once they felt like super tired. So I kept running and like eventually people just started to like stop running and like go to the sidelines because they were too tired. And then it got down to the point there was like 5 people left. I was one of the 5 and I'm so tired. Like I can't feel my legs. I feel so weak. I feel like I'm about to throw up. And in that moment, I really was telling myself, Nara, you need to quit. Like everything in my body was telling me to stop. My mind was telling me to stop. Everything in me just wanted to quit. And that's when I realized that my self-talk was super negative and that I needed in that moment to either listen to it or to have a different self-talk. And that's where I started the process of really diagnosing like, what is my self-talk and how can I use this as a strategic way to help me optimize my performance? This was so important because the moment I had the awareness to understand how I was talking to myself in the most challenging moments, that's when I knew that that was determining if I could push myself past limits that I never achieved before. And once I got that awareness, it changed everything to me. It was so important because I was able to, one, see how negative my self-talk got whenever I was in a really challenging moment where it felt like I had to push myself, where my body was just screaming wherever I was in pain. And it would allow me to either get through that moment and like persevere or to quit because it was just too unbearable. So the moment I got the awareness around how negative my self-talk was, I started to turn the table and essentially figure out how I can make it more positive. So whenever I did get into a really challenging moment, I was able to push myself and use my self-talk to get me through it. So I want you guys to be practical and write down the first negative thing you tell yourself in pressure moments. Just becoming aware is step 1. So literally just write down everything. Think about the hardest moments you ever faced, all the challenges you faced, and really go back and try to figure out what were you saying to yourself? Or in the moments you really want to quit, what are you saying to yourself that is not helping you overcome that moment? And write everything down so you can just build that awareness. So once I really started to notice when I had the most negative self-talks, I started to realize that these are the reasons why I wasn't able to push myself in the ways I could, like in practice or when it wasn't serious versus the game or just a really high stakes moment. Because I started to notice that my self-talk was the reason why I couldn't get through really hard things. So the way I started to reframe it is that I noticed it. I was really aware and attuned to the moments I had the most negative self-talk. And I knew that those moments would probably happen again, being that I was an athlete and a lot of things are on repeat. So you would face the same moments again and again, no matter what. And I started to prep myself. And I knew like, if we're down in a game, there's 2 minutes left, and I'm tired and I know my opponent's tired and then I really just need to push myself for the last 2 minutes, that I knew in that moment, that's when I was going to have the most negative self-talk. And that's when I started to realize that, okay, maybe let's make a plan moving forward. So when I do get to that moment, that I can use that moment as a way to push myself and to change my negative self-talk. So what I did is that whenever I started to get triggered into negative self-talk, I really started to talk to myself instead of letting my brain talk to me. So if I felt really tired, I just gamified it, because at the end of the day, when you're really tired and your body just wants to stop, it's really hard to hear anything else other than, okay, let's just stop and give in to what it needs. So I started to make goal points that I would say. So if there was 2 minutes left, I would just be like, okay, Nara, we got this. Like, just push yourself for 30 seconds. So I would go really hard for 30 seconds. And then once I got to 30 seconds, I was like, okay, like, let's push for another 30 seconds. So what I did was I just broke it down into really small, tangible goals with time frames. So like I knew that even if I was suffering in that moment, that at the end of the day, there's going to be a time where this ends. And making it very clear when the suffering will end actually allows yourself to push yourself beyond your limits, because now you're like, okay, I don't know when this is going to end, which makes it really hard to overcome, as opposed to saying to yourself like, okay, this is where I'm going to push myself for 30 seconds. Okay, another 30 seconds. And that actually gave me more energy to really be in the moment and push myself beyond the limit of just being like, okay, I have 2 minutes. I feel tired. I'm going to quit. No, let's segment it out, push for these small increments. And then eventually I got to a point where I was able to withstand the whole 2 minutes or get past my negative self-talk. This honestly was like a big game changer for me, because I started to talk to myself instead of letting myself talk to me. And whenever I took control of a moment where I felt like negative self-talk was controlling me, I actually turned it around and was like, no, I'm not going to let my body say what I'm feeling. I'm going to tell my body what I'm feeling. And it gave me more power and control to really just push myself beyond limits that I thought I never had before. And that's honestly the biggest key, is when you take control and you talk to yourself and you tell your mind like, no, we can do this, we can push through, as opposed to letting it tell you all the negative things you can't do. You start to hear that voice of you telling yourself what to do, whether it be positive affirmations or gamifying it the way I did. And once you start saying that more consistently, that becomes a more dominating voice in your head, and then allows you to push past really hard moments. So I want to challenge you guys to pick one phrase you tell yourself this week when doubt creeps in. Something short and powerful like, I've got this, or I can handle this, or I can get through really hard things. This will allow you to change your negative self-talk into something that's positive. Finally, I want to share how my inner voice evolved into a true teammate, encouraging, guiding, and empowering me in every area of life. So if I want to compare how my self-talk is now versus what it used to be, some examples look like when I'm on a sales call and I'm transitioning right now out of being an Olympic athlete into the realm of sales. And honestly, I don't have all the skill sets where I feel like I can be very confident in that alone, nor do I feel like super competent at times. But I know I'm in the stage where I'm learning and growing and pushing myself outside of the comfort of athletics. And honestly, going into some of these cold calls where I'm talking to like business owners, or I'm talking to VPs, or I'm talking to presidents, it's very intimidating, because I don't feel like I'm super confident in being able to convey or do a really thorough sales pitch. And I have to still go in and sound confident. And honestly, right before I'm calling a VP or I'm calling an owner of a company, I get super nervous. And I started to notice that although I feel nervous in those times, my self-talk is what allows me to have these calls, but still be courageous to do it and have all the confidence in the world, because I'm literally telling myself that I don't need to have it all figured out. I am capable of figuring it out as I'm going through the process. And that gives me confidence to, one, not feel like I have to be perfect. Like, I understand that I'm still in this learning process, but I can still show up to a call and still be really good, just because I'm learning and I'm willing to take the risk of failing and learning from it. And that's going to help me get better. So in those moments, I'm directly telling myself that when something's challenging, I am my best because it's making me my best. And I'm able to just be present with the moment and step up to it confidently, even if I feel like I'm not really good yet. And all of my self confidence comes from the fact that I'm able to tell myself that I've done this before, I've done hard things. And when it's challenging, that's when I start to grow and that's when I'm my best. Another example of how my self talk has changed and how I've seen it change is that now I'm in this place where I'm not training, I'm working out to be healthy. I'm not working out to win a gold medal or to play in the Olympics. And it's simply based on me just wanting to be healthy and live a healthy lifestyle. And the one thing that I hate more than anything is running. And I've been running more, doing more sprints, doing more long distance running, which I didn't have a lot of time doing before when I was an athlete. And it's just me most times in the treadmill. And honestly, I can get off whatever I want and nobody would notice or nobody would care. It would just be all on me. But I started to notice that when I started doing my sprints more consistently, towards the end of the sprints, I would really get this urge to quit. And then I realized that my negative self-talk started to come in like, oh, I'm so tired. I can't do this. Maybe if I just get off, maybe if I take a 2-second break. And I noticed in that moment when that was happening, I started to talk to myself internally, but even out loud, I was just like, no, Naira, like, okay, we got 2 more sprints. Let's go. We got 30 seconds. Okay, just go for 30 seconds. Push yourself. You're going to get your rest. Let's go. And I started to notice that I was doing this automatically versus when I was in the beginning of my career, it didn't happen that naturally. And it has allowed me to push myself in moments where I feel like I really just want to give up. So this is super important because a lot of people are just not aware of their own negative self-talk. And a lot of times it is the reason why people don't start, people don't finish, people don't do things that are really scary to do because their negative self-talk is the one that's keeping them from doing it. And no matter where you go or no matter what you want to accomplish or what you want to do, your inner champion is a constant teammate. So if it's negative, it's going to, one, tear you down. But if it's more championing and it's affirming, then it's going to be your teammate in a positive way. And that voice helps you show up fully, even when things are hard. So in the hardest moments, you'll be able to withstand it because your teammate of your positive self-talk is helping you get through those moments. And that's honestly is the difference between somebody who pushes through and somebody who gives up. So just ending off, your inner voice is your constant teammate. Train it the way you train your body or your skills, because the words you speak to yourself might just be the most powerful tool you have. I'd love to hear your stories of rewriting your inner voice. DM me or leave a comment on this episode so we can continue this conversation. And as always, your mindset is your power. Use it. Peace.